Greetings, I'm Leslie Pollard, president of Oakwood University, and I wish to congratulate the members of the Allegheny West Conference on your 50th year anniversary. And I especially wish to commend our conference president, Elder William Cox. Elder Cox is a person that I have known since we were little boys running around New Orleans, Louisiana. And when I look at the tremendous progress that Allegheny West has made through his ministry, I can only say, praise God, from whom all blessings flow. I congratulate you and him on the professions of faith and the baptisms in which 90% of your churches have experienced growth in a day when many churches are showing negative growth. I see Elder Cox as a visionary. His leadership has led to nearly 1,000 baptisms in 2016. Again, we give God the glory. Congratulations, and I also want to thank the conference for hiring its first female pastor, Pastor Regina Johnson. Again, this is a fulfillment of Joel 2:27 and 28, that in the last days I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Elder Cox and your team should be congratulated for contributing to our board, our very first Hispanic pastor to serve on the Oakwood University board, Dr. Sergio Romero. And I'm really excited about the brand new conference office that you acquired in 2014. This is going to be a wonderful space from which to conduct your administrative operations. And through this space, the planning and the presentation of the gospel to your territory will cause the work to grow and abound to the glory of God. Dr. Cox, you and the entire leadership team, as well as the members of the great Allegheny West Conference, are to be commended for the boldness of your vision. And I'm especially grateful, as president of Oakwood University, for your deep and abiding commitment to Seventh-day Adventist Christian education. Now, this means a lot to me because I get to experience the young people that you train as they come here to our campus. It is clear to me that both Elder Cox and his wife, LaTonya, are deeply committed to making sure that what they have provided for their children, they are also providing for yours, which is a Seventh-day Adventist Christian education. Again, we are in a time when Christian education is challenged on every side, but I am grateful that your leadership has continued to say that all thy children shall be taught of the Lord, and great will be the peace of your children. I thank God for the ministry of leadership that's being provided there in the great Allegheny West Conference. Now, I change gears a little in this Oakwood report. I want to say something about the wonderful connection that Oakwood University has had to regional conferences. I'm especially grateful for the many contributions of the great Allegheny West Conference. You were founded in 1967. Oakwood had already been in existence since 1896. However, when I think about that relationship, I see some things that are historic. First of all, regional conferences were formed, yes, as a response to racism. That's one rail of the forming. But the other rail is the rail that those who criticize the existence of regional conferences often miss. They forget that they were also founded for a missiological reason. The belief that the cultural intelligence needed to reach peoples of African descent in North America would best be provided by people from that same people group. Now, I know that there are those who often will call for the dissolution of regional conferences, but I say that they are being myopic. They say that, well, we are not united. But what we say is that we're as united as any church has ever been, and more united than almost every church in the world. Why? Because we share a common commitment to a common vision, a common mission, to the three angels' messages, and to making sure that that message goes into every part of the world so that Jesus Christ can come. Now, that symbolizes a deep and profound commitment to the mission of the institution. Now, how we play that out across different people groups, that is what we are talking about here. And so in the regional work, we represent a unique people group with a unique history who are using that history in order to spread our message around the world and throughout this division. Allegheny West has been a key player and making sure that peoples of African descent, and now as we expand our inclusivity, peoples from the brown community and from the yellow community and from the red community, and yes, from the white community, are all welcomed into our doors. May God continue to bless the work of regional conferences. I am one of those who stands as a staunch defender of what I call gospel commission, global unity, and mission particularity, meaning that we've got to take the gospel and contextualize it so that people hear it in a language that they understand. Regional conferences, including Allegheny West, since 1967, have been pioneers in making sure that all of God's children, black men and white men, all have the equal opportunities to hear this message in a language that they respond to. Now, I wish to, in closing, circle back to something that has been very prominent in our regional work. You've heard me talk about the history of this work. We've got a book coming out in which we chronicle all the history of regional conferences and the missional reasons for which we conduct them. Now, there is one thing, though, that has taken root in our regional conferences, and I think it's because there was a reaction to what some saw as excessive terms in office. And that's called the term limits conversation. And if you would permit me, I'd like to share with you what I shared at the South Central Conference constituency meeting. The history of term limits is a very, very fractious history. Normally, term limits have started in countries where there are dictatorships and people don't have access to free and open elections. And so one way to protect themselves against tyrants was to put in term limits. Now, when the United States started its work, its Constitution, it did not include term limits for the presidency. But we have, for whatever reasons, and I think they were good reasons back in the 80s and the 90s, we didn't want to see terms of office where a person stayed in 25, 30, 40 years. And so what we decided we would do is that we would do automatic term limits. Now, looking back on that after 25 years, I can tell you from being a member of the GC Executive Committee, being a member of the North American Division Committee, being a member of the Southern Union Executive Committee, and being a member of the South Central Conference Executive Committee. I have served at every level of this church. Colleagues, let me just put it bluntly. Term limits are hurting our work. Here's why. What they do is they create a merry-go-round of immature leadership. So once you serve a term in some places, then the second term you're out. So think about this now. There are miles of difference between being a local pastor, a departmental leader, even a conference secretary, and being the president of an organization. I know that. I live that life. It is a big difference from when I was a vice president at Loma Linda University to now being president of Oakwood University. As president, I have all kinds of decisions that have to be made. Strategic decisions, operational decisions, administrative decisions, managerial decisions, tactical decisions. I know personally that it's miles of difference between those things. And this decision-making need, those are the kinds of things that mature a leader. So here is what we've set up. We've set up in some places where once you are president, and it takes you about a term to really learn how to do the job. It really does, brothers and sisters. It takes about a term. So you learn how to do the job, and then you're finished. Now all the workers know that you're lame duck. So in some cases, people kind of wait the president out after 2 years or so because they know the president is lame duck and they're going to be out. And more importantly, though, we create a merry-go-round of immature leadership that does not have the maturity or the gravitas to speak truth to power. Now, that's important for us as a people. Whatever else we think of past practice across our regional conferences, no one can deny that those leaders who had multiple terms, and let's say, okay, so maybe some of them were too long in retrospect. But those leaders had the gravitas to be heard when we went to those assemblies in Washington, D.C. and in Silver Spring, Maryland. They could be heard. I could call them by names. You know them. They have done tremendous work. We stand on their shoulders. So I am very careful about arguing that someone was in too long. The other thing that I don't like about term limits on a personal level is that it seems to me to be a way that we abandon the constituency's responsibility. If you think about it, at the end of however long the term in office was, somebody voted to make a change in leadership. So when we think about it, we don't need a constitutional provision to help us effect change because we have the vote. At every constituency, my term of office is over. I just went through a constituency meeting here at Oakwood University in 2016. I was elected for one term of office. When that term is over, it's over. In order for me to go back, I have to be re-elected. Now, what do people determine helps you to be re-elected? Well, they look at the work that was done and then they make a decision. I like that model better because it empowers our laity rather than depending upon artificial provisions that help us abdicate our responsibility. Now, I may have said too much, and if I did, please forgive me. But I did want to say that because I've been sharing this as I've done my work on regional conferences. Regional conferences do best when we have leaders who have matured in office and who are still effective and can speak truth to power to advance our causes. And then when we think they are no longer doing that, at the end of the constituency, we are free to elect new leadership. Here's the last reason I think it's a bad idea. Nobody else is doing it. Now let me pause right there. Other conferences are not doing that. We are doing this to ourselves. And so, may I appeal to you, if you are considering such, to think through these things. Number one, they were put in place to overturn despotic and tyrannical leadership. Number two, they work against us because we are constantly rotating leadership across the North American division, and we can't get any momentum as we used to have when, and I'm going to call their names, when Elder Dudley was in office, and Elder Earl was in office, and Elder Fordham, and all of those great leaders who helped grow this work. Right now, we have a merry-go-round of new leadership every 2 terms. And I can tell you, brothers and sisters, from where I sit at Oakwood University, it actually hurts our work. It keeps us from gaining the momentum we need to effect lasting change. I say that and I leave that with you. I want you to know, and you think about it and pray about it, and if it's not correct, then I ask God to forgive me. But I pray that God will bless you as you deliberate today and as you work in your constituency meeting. May God's Spirit be a part of everything that you do, and may the work of God in the great Allegheny West Conference grow and abound to the glory of God. Happy 50th anniversary.